so far sanitary system is concerned, the best example is Mohenjo-daro, where almost each house has a bathroom and a well or sometimes two wells and a very efficient drainage system to let off the sewage outside the city. As far as wells are concerned, I feel the introduction of well is a great contribution of the Harappans to humanity. Very interestingly, priests for, priests for death and mortuary practices make another group. They are called Yamayana priests. From 10 or 14 to 17 hymns in the 10th mandal of Rig Veda are dedicated to the rituals of, in honor of the dead. At Dholavira, we investigated several graves. Only in one grave was found one skeleton, that too of a lady with mirror and bangle, shell bangle in the hand. Dignitaries present in the audience, young students, a large number of young students. Some of them will turn historians, some will be archaeologists, and some I do not know. And I belong to that generation which was trained by Professor B.B. Lal. As a PGA student of the School of Archaeology, I got training under him at Kalibanga for 2 years. So I am very extremely fortunate. And thereafter also, he always showered his love and affection on me. And wherever I did it, he guided me. So I again say that I give my salute to Professor B.B. Lal. Enough is said by him. He has already introduced his life Vice Air Marshal Professor Lal, and Alok Tripathi has also added much more. So I don't need to add anything else except that. This is his autobiography by Professor B.B. Lal himself. Piecing Together, Memoirs of an Archaeologist. Written in a very simple, very lucid English, and some pun here and there, some satire here and there. But he has an archaeologist and he was also a poet. One poem is already cited there, but I know he wrote another poem also, but that I do not know where that is. But it's a must read. Try to read it. You will find it in your libraries. It was published by Iron Book Corporation. Piecing Together, Memoirs of an Archaeologist by Professor B.B. Lal. To begin with, I will say that I feel very much honored and very humbled to deliver the second memorial lecture in honor of Professor B.B. Lal, sponsored by so many academic institutions here. India now claims to have a great cultures, you know. One of them was the Rigvedic culture. Rigved was the oldest literary composition or a collection of hymns in praise of gods. And I think this is the oldest literary compositions beside the Mesopotamian cuneiform text and hieroglyphic or demotic scripts of Egypt. Here, what an irony. Rigvedic culture has a great intellectual personality, but no physical form. It is formless. It's supposed to be formless. Archaeologically speaking, is a Naam Shesh and Yasha Shesh. What a glory that was, what a glory India was when during the Rigvedic times. While the Harappan has a form, has a roop, but it is nameless wonder. Earlier, I mean, the Harappan civilization, it was first discovered, was supposed to be a blitz across the sky, a flash. It dazzled, then went off, having no legacy from the past and bequeathing no legacy thereafter. But that is not the case now. Now we can trace back the sedentary life in India from about 7,000 BCE. And the best site that was excavated was Mehergarh in the Kachi plain of Pakistan, now in Pakistan, which has given a very long cultural sequence, period 1 to period 7, starting from 7,000 or even earlier than that, down to around 3,000 BCE or later, or say, I mean, to 2,600 BCE. And 6 kilometers from away from that is another site called Naushehru, which has given the period 7 of Mehergarh in addition to the Harappan civilization, including the phase of decline there. So now we can say the Harappa culture was not a sudden emergence of a civilization. Earlier it was thought to be like that. That's why Wheeler said that wings have, no, imagination have wings. The idea must have come from Mesopotamia to have a city life in India, to establish city life. And later on, he discarded his own theory. But the emergence of Harappa culture was not sudden. It has a long history behind. Very interestingly, studying on the anthropological remains, records, like skeletons and all that, some some people have, like Hemphill, Lukács, and Kennedy, have shown that from 45 year BCE to 800 BCE, there is a continuous anthropological record. Only around 800 BCE, you find break in that, when a new people come in the Kabul Valley, in the valley of Swat, Kabul, and all those rivers in Afghanistan. But thereafter is no anthropological break. It means there was continuity. Let us weigh the facts objectively in relation to Harappans and the Rigvedic society. Before that, I would like to give a brief introduction to Harappan civilization, what it stands for. It had a very long life, say 2500 to 1900 BC. Some add one more century in the beginning, say 2600 to 1900 BCE. And it's a vast territory covering about 0.7 billion square meter. And it is notable for what? Attaining a high degree of sophistication, amazing formalism in all creations what they created, standardization and utilization. They were very mundane people. These attributes are well manifested in all spheres of their life, such as exquisite settlement planning. The best example, obviously, is Dholavira. It doesn't mean that Dholavira should be the only site. Kalibanga is Andhra, Lothal is Andhra, Surkota is still Andhra, and there are many other sites. And so far, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro as concerned, they are yet to be investigated much better in order to know. We know, it was excellent town planning was there, but we do not know the limits of the sites. Some good work has been done subsequently by American archaeologists at Harappa. But still, Mohenjo-daro remains yet to be studied much more. And monumental buildings, impressive architecture. When I say impressive architecture means aesthetic architecture, elements of aesthetics in architecture. And obviously, Dholavira is the best example for that. And water structures, water management system, water harvesting system of Dholavira. How the rainwater flowing from the monsoonal torrents of Manhar and Mansar were captured with the help of dams constructed across those torrents to fill a cascading series of reservoirs on all four sides of Dholavira, built up area of Dholavira. One thing. Another thing, all those reservoirs are well within the outer fortification. A novel feature so far Dholavira has yielded that there was an outer fortification also. And that outer fortification was well integrated to another network of and the very integrated system of fortification inside the built-up area. Because each division was fortified one. And fortification of outer, peripheral, and inner area were well integrated into each other. And the sanitation, so far sanitary system is concerned, the best example is Mohenjo-daro, where almost each house has a bathroom and a well, or sometimes two wells, and a very efficient drainage system to let off the sewage outside the city. As far as wells are concerned, I feel the introduction of well is a great contribution of the Harappans to humanity. Water structures are concerned, you know very well about the so-called Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro, the dock of Lothal, and a series of reservoir or tanks, water tanks in Dholavira. And then it is notable for its stamp seals and it, as well as its script, which is unfortunately not yet deciphered. Weights and measures. For this, Dholavira also stands unique because we have found around 1,000 weights. If the weights recovered from Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Chanudaro, Surkota, and many other, all the Harappan sites excavated so far, if you add up them together, they do not reach nearer 1,000 weights that Dholavira has produced. And that's what I mean, we could make out of the two different series, and each series having two sub-series, but I'm not going into details of that. That very uniformity in pottery, arts, jewelry, implements, and so on and so forth. In addition to above, the Harappans have extended the trade to far-off countries such as Mesopotamia, Elam, parts of Iran, Turkmenistan in Central Asia. And one thing that will be very surprising to you, that in Oman Peninsula, which is still a very extremely rich source of copper, the central ridge, for almost from Dubai to the other shore of Oman, you find the central ridge, which is extremely rich in copper. And it seems that Harappan merchants, capitalists, went there and working there through their agents to obtain that copper from there. That's why the Harappans emerged as the suppliers of copper to Mesopotamia, Elam, and other places, including India. Copper was a very valuable metal during that period, because iron was not known. Of course, gold, silver, lead, tin, all those things were known. But the copper was a thing which was used for making tools, for making agricultural implements, for making jewelry. and even for making weight, as we have found a few at Dholavira. So it has a multifunctional metal. The main argument in favor of non-Vedic character of the Harappas lies in the concept of urban-rural dichotomy that was supposed to be by most of the archaeologists and historians. Okay, one is rural culture. Rigvedic life is a rural life completely, and Harappan was an urban life. So there was a dichotomy. So there were no meeting place in the past, but I feel I feel that we should give a new interpretation to the Vedic literature in relation to the Harappan civilization. While reading the translations, while reading writings on Rig Veda, you will find that almost all other scholars, right from German, English, French, they are duly referred to. But nowhere you will find the H.S. Wilson, which translated the entire Rig Veda and now published in 6 volumes. In his introduction, in the first and second volume of Rig Veda, he clearly says that Rig Vedic Aryans are city-living people, they were manufacturing people, they were trading people, they were maritime people. Nowhere in any writing on the Vedic literature you will find the mention of H.S. Wilson, who translated that the entire Rig Veda was translated by him. Around, I think he died somewhere 1849 or 50, before the discovery of Harappan civilization, first at Harappa, then at Mohenjo-daro. Had he lived up to that, he would have immediately said that Harappans were Rigvedic Aryans. But that was not to happen. Now, these are some of the points which I would like to discuss here. Geography, settlements, nature and hierarchy, structure, nature and hierarchy, water structures, mercantile activities, maritime activities, ships and shipping, land routes and means of transport, diversity of funeral practices, and the funerary architecture and related architecture with the mortuary rites and all that. Let us come to the Rigvedic geography. What was the territory of Rigvedic people? Yasya me himanto bahitva, yasya samundram rasaya sahahu. On one side, they are talking about the Himalayas. On the other side, the sea, along with the rasa. So far rasa is concerned, I have a new interpretation for that, I will tell you later on. And then you will find all easterly rivers of Balochistan flow down to the Indus. Okay? Kubha, Swatu, Krumu, Kurram, Gomti, Gomal, and that Yabyavati, Jho, Haryupia, Iryu, and all those easterly rivers are making junction with the Indus. And on the east, the entire Saraswati basin, including the valley of Drishadvati is tributary and Apaya is tributary, are duly mentioned. And in later part of, during the time of the first emperor of the Rigvedic time is Sudha, son of Pizuvan, belonging to the small family of Trissus, which belonged to the bigger family of Purus and Bhartas. He was the last emperor, and he had already reached Yamuna to defeat some of the tribal societies fighting against him under the leadership of their leadership of Veda. It means for Yamuna to Balochistan, for Himalayas to sea, that is the land of the Rigvedic Aryans. And what is the Harappan territory? The same. To make it short, I will say Harappania. If the scholars and other people prefer this term, Harappian, like Persia, Mesopotamia, Asia. Why not to call it uh, Harappia? Why every time you have to add territory, region, zone, this and that to that? Harappania, okay. And then in the Rig Veda, they talk about Ashtau Kakubha Tidhanva Yojana Sapta Sindhun. 8 mountains, 3 deserts, and 7 rivers. That's why it is called Sapta Sindhu civilization, or the civilization of Sapta Sindhu land. And that is co-terminus with the Harappania. And so far Kutch is concerned, there was another extension to that. So far Lothar is concerned, it was a frontier town established for a specific purpose. All around Lothal, you don't find Harappan sites except one. So is the case with Shortugai in the north of Afghanistan, situated on the high bank of river Kokcha, just near the point where it makes junction with the Oxus river. Why Harappans had their settlement there? Because the headwaters of Kokcha is still known for the mines of lapis lazuli, which was in high demand in Mesopotamia. It was highly priced in Mesopotamia. Just to capture that costly mineral, to give it to to send it to Mesopotamia and Elam, Harappans had complete control over the mines of the lapis lazuli. That is called Lajvar or Rajavarta. Likewise, there we find some fortified settlements on the Makran coast. And why Harappan extended to that arid area? Because they were seafaring people. So they had some ports, should have some port towns along with that. And now those settlements are still at a distance from the Arabian Sea. But environmental scientists say there's Shortugai, Suttagal Kho, Miri Kalat. These are the special Harappan sites in the Makran coast, very closer to the sea. The sea level was much higher. This part is Makran. बीक के तरफ, चिड़िया की बीक के तरफ पाकिस्तान में जाता है. This is the land of 7 rivers which Indra held by conquering from the adversary and distributed it among his white complexioned friends, that is Aryan friends. Furthermore, the text speaks repeatedly of the near and upper, near sea, our sea, distant sea, पर sea, और पारे समुद्र, उसी से पारावार बना है. अवर माने नियर, our sea and per sea. Often these terms occur in connection with the sea, that is, of course the Arabian Sea. And they talk about Faris, Pare Samudra. Here in Makran, you see the Makran, that very arid area. Harappan had their fortified towns of ports of call. And so Kutch is concerned, it's the adjoining area. Kutch had turned out to be a garden of Harappan settlements, including Dholavira. There are many, many mature Harappan sites, even sites earlier than the classical sites and later than the classical sites. Kutch. Why Kutch was so important? Because the Kutch was the area from where they acquired very important minerals like copper, silver, and from near the junction of Gujarat and Rajasthan. And they highly demanded agates, especially red-colored carnelian, because the carnelian beads of very special kind, they made a various kind of say, carnelian beads, but certain special kind of carnelian beads which have been found in Mesopotamia. So it seems there was a great trade in sending beads from here to that, to special kinds which are easily identifiable as barrel-shaped or long cylindrical-shaped carnelian beads and etched carnelian beads. Etching is done with the help of some acidic juice. Those two kinds of beads were very, very special of the Harappans, which were found in a good quantity in Mesopotamia and Elam, and a few in Iran and in southern Turkmenistan. So they were very in high demand. And then seashell. All kinds of seashells the Harappans used for making their jewelry, for making their tools, for making their inlay pieces. All those are found in the Gulf of Kutch. Gulf of Kutch is the only place where all kinds of shells used by the Harappans can be acquired from the Gulf of Kutch. That is, should be in the region. And next region is, it was surrounded by the Kutch, is surrounded by the Gate Run, Little Run, Gulf of Kutch, Kori Creek, and Arabian Sea. As I said that Harappans were maritime people. Pura, once upon, different views have been talked about Pura. Some say those are mythical Purs of gods in the heaven, in the sky. They are not real Puras. A Pur shabd, actually it is Puh, Pura. It is feminine gender. And you will find different forms of Pura. Most of the terms used as adjective to the Pura belong to the Aryans. About 17 of them belong to the Aryans, only 15 belong to those who are their adversaries. And a few are, what is Devatrapur or Mritirtapur. They distinguish between the divine Purs and mortal Purs. Pura of the mortals. Drada, Adishta, Ayasi, Patra, Shatbhuji, Prithvi, Mahi, Urvi, Bahula, Saubhaga, Isha, Gomati, Narmani, Shubhra, Vadra, Shardi, Ashmanmai, and so on and so forth. Ashman means made of stones. If you visit Dholavira, you will find the entire settlement is made of wood. But that is not the case. Wood has been used for veneer fortifications, which were basically made of mud bricks. But from outside, you will see that it is made of stone, Ashman Mahipur. So these are about the Puras. There is a very beautiful one verse. Vrijam Kriddham Bahubhi Nipano, Varma Sividdham Bahula Puruni, Puraha Kriddham Ayasi Adhishta. Normally, Agni, where Indra was the Purandara, Purvibindu, who destroyed forts of the adversaries, Aryan adversaries. But Agni is always invoked to protect the Aryan Purs. Ano Agna Amitai Mahavi Sadam Purvi Ayasivi Nipahi. You come and protect us along with your Shadbhujipur or Ayasipur and all that. So at many places, Agni is invoked for the protection of the Aryan forts. Whereas in most cases, Purandar is the destroyer of forts. So if there is a destroyer and there is protector also. Like Sharman is very special kind of. It is more elaborate than Pura. Sharman, Dhatu Sharman, Tridhatu Sharman, Tridhatu Varuthya Sharman. You know, Dhatu here means division. A Sharman having 3 divisions. A Sharman having 3 divisions and each one of his Varuthya, protected by a Varuth, a protective defensive wall. So far, Tirdhatu, Varuthya, Sharman, and Saran, which occur together, is the best example of that is Dholavira, where there is a citadel, one, middle town, second, a third is lower town. Most of the settlements have their own fortification, integrated with the outer fortification. And then there are the tripartite settlement. And citadel had two parts. One I called castle, the other I called Beli. In Hindi, I called that Mahaprasada or citadel Mahaprasada, then Upaprasad, that is Beli. I have borrowed these terms from British fortification system. A castle on the higher area and in the fortified area in the lower area is called Beli. Sometimes there are two Belis. One is called inner Beli or outer Beli, something like this at a lower area. Varutha, of course, Varuthi is a protection, as I told you. And you will be surprised to know that many of the Harappan settlements or the settlement before that or contemporary of those has either a term of Drilha, Dado. What is Dado? Mohenjo-daro, Channu-daro, Rohinjo-daro. There are so many, there is a certain region in which of the ancient settlements are called Dado. Then Drilha, Drilhapur. And there is Varuthi, Buthi, a suffix. Fala, this Buthi, that Buthi, that Buthi. And that makes Andhra zone. So that is also means a fortified settlement. Tridhatu Singha. Here I am talking about, we are talking already about settlements. Sadhastra, Trisadhastra, the joints, adjacent for two fortified, that is castle and Dholavira. Chardis, protected with ramparts. Chardis, I think, maybe inside maybe the thatched roofs, etc., huts of thatched roofs and etc. And Braja is definitely cattle enclosures. Sometimes they are also Ashmanmaya Braja. They are also protected by fortifications. There are many such mentions of the Brajas that are enclosed in that. And in one case it said that there are 7 gates for access into a Braja. So Braja is meant for cattle, goats and sheep and all those things, and horses. Brajina, that appears to be a cantonment town. Because always, when you find any mention of Brajina, you will find that they were talking about the Veeras inside of soldiers, this and that. I feel that the region is a cantonment area. And then Mahagrama, a large village, and then Gram. Gram is the smallest unit. Gram, Mahagram, Vrijan, Vajra, Durga, Duryon, Durya, and Chardis, Sadhastha, Trisadhastha, और पहले बता दिया आपको त्रिधातु शर्मन शरणा और पुरा. So there is a hierarchy. In any urban situation, there should be a hierarchy in system. In settlements, in architecture, in everything, there should be hierarchy. Harappan society, very complex society. It is multi-ethnic society. But it's very strange that it is multi-ethnic society, but its salient features have a uniformity, right from Lothal to Shortugai, from Makran coast to Punjab, Haryana. Yeah, this is just showing outer fortification, a novel introduction to Harappan industry planning. Nowhere else outer fortification is shown. Between the built-up area of Beli Castle or Middle Town, Lower Town, you find some vacant areas parted by walls, with partition walls. They are all reservoirs. It was surrounded by reservoirs. There are 27 adjectives qualifying Purus belonging to both the Aryans and the predecessors. Most significant, 15 of them qualify to be Aryan force and 11, 12 to their adversaries, their foes, while the two stand for Puras of gods and mortals, Devatra, Mrityatra. And then go Pushya Prithvi Bhavlada Urvi, Bhavato Kaya Tadaya Shamnu. They are for their progeny, for their sons and for their children and for their future progeny. They are requesting gods that our Pur should be extensive, many in number, and very fertile. Urvi. Fertile here means broad or lengthwise or widthwise. Shatam Purvi Yavistha Pahi. Yavistha is the name for Agni. Oh Agni, protect us with our 100 folds. तान अनहसा पिप्रही पत्र भी शतम पूर्वी आयसी पूर्वी यविष्ठय. Again Agni is invited that you protect us, our protective, along with the protective Pratrabhi Pura, te bhi no Agni amita mahbi shatam purvi ayasi bhi nipahi. They are, I mean, mostly Agni, as I said, they invoked for the protection of their force. The iron shares invoked them. And Saraswati also called a very firm icy pool. Shadam Ma Pur Pur icy Ariksha. That is in a different context. But meaning is the same. Agni possesses incessant opulence and dwells in a Dradapur. Agni is said, we are living in a Dradapur, in a very strong pool we are living in. There is a reference to welfare king, whose valiant men are settled in Puras and Sharman, as firmly as woman is bound to her husband. Pura Sada, Sharma Sada, Nabira. There is mention of person living in towns. Paur. Purijana. A man living in a Puri. A Paur. Paur is a personal name. Paur is also a generic name for citizens who are living in cities. बाद में हमने देखा पौर जानपदा, बहुत सुना होगा हिस्ट्री में. पौर एंड जानपदा, कंट्री साइड एंड cities, towns and cities. Shatam Mahapur Ayasi Arakshan. These are all Purvava Shadbhuji. Agni is again said, Marusa said, Juhure. There are so many, you can see the references are there. The last one is extremely, very good. Upaksheti Hitmitrona Raja. Pura Sada Sharv Sadona Veera Anvadhya Pati Justev Nari. वो तो मैंने आपको बता दिया पूरा सदा. They Upaksheti Hitmitrona Raja. Taken care of by the welfare kings. Welfare kings. Janona Puri. Radvo Puri Juriya. A mature man, रणुआ but beautiful, जैसे पूर्व में है. पुरा पौर इंद्र माव, ये पौर है. पौरम चिद, पौर पौर आया जिन्व था. 3 बार एक ही जगह पौर शब्द आया है. ये पहला भी पौर है, नॉट पोर. पौर पौर पौराय जिन्व था. पौर फिर आता है. अच्छा, अब ये है. We know that Indra was Purandara, Indra was Purohana, Indra was Puram Bhetu, Indra was Puram Bhetu, destruction of that. But there is a very interesting work. Purandhi and Purandri, differently interpreted by Sayanacharya, on which most of the translation depended heavily. At some place, Sayanacharya was a prime minister in the Vijayanagar kingdom. Sometimes he says that Purandhi means that protects Pura. Sometimes he gives a different interpretation. He was not sure about it. But in the later on, Purandhi word or Purandhi words were misinterpreted as full of intelligence. But if you look at the grammar, Sanskrit grammar, whether it is Panani or Vedic, you will find that Purandi does not mean anything else than protected of a Pura. Okay? Achha, here I would like to make it clear that Pura is always Pur, और इसके जो रूप चलते हैं पूह, पुरौ, पुरा, पुरम, पुरौ, पूह, pura, like this. It is feminine gender, not like pura, akarant, no. Not like puri, ikarant, no. In Rig Veda, always it is feminine gender as pur, short pur, purandhi, purasthatri. These are the words, some of the very interesting words which have been wrongly translated, interpreted by the translators. I have given there a new interpretation. It is for the scholars to admit it or not. I have done my job. Dholavira. Just to show a few glimpses of Dholavira, I will not talk about this. The highest point that you see is the castle. Castle is very important. It is very jealously guarded, but huge defenses, which are at the base at 12.50 meter broad, just imagine. 18.50 meter broad or 40 meter broad. And in addition to, you find bastions projecting out, bastions provided inside, platform inside, attached to this thing. And what for? I mean, there's a huge fortification was used, where in the proto-historic time there are mortars to break it down. No. Why? This fortification has some other meaning also. I believe at Dholavira, I believe at Mohenjo-daro, I believe at Harappa, and also at Kalibanga, particularly in the citadel part, that the broad fortification walls were used for having very special kind of buildings. Just like your Khas Mahal, Sheesh Mahal, Mumtaz Mahal, Asad Burj in Lal Killa in Delhi, all are on the rampart. This is Mohenjo-daro, that is Stup Mound, Dholavira, Shardipur. I have given very interesting words are there. Shardipur. Why it is called Shardipur? Different interpretations are given to them. That Shardipurs are the pur made for against protection from floods. Or in the Sharad Ritu, people were living there and then vacating it. No, I don't believe. Sharad. Sharad always stands for a year, having 12 months. I believe that well-planned settlement was Kashardipur. If some of you have read the Stuart Piggott, he also says that Mohenjo-daro had possibly so many 12 divisions. It was his conjecture, which is yet to be proved by archaeological investigation. But I believe that it was very nearer the truth. अच्छा, एक चीज है, आपथि विपथि हो अंतस्पथा अनुस्पथा in one verse. Apathy means roads coming roads. Vipathi means crossing roads. Antaspatha, which are running parallel inside, smaller streets. Antaspatha, Anupatha, which follow along the smaller streets. That kind of planning you can't have in open countryside unless these terms are for a planned city or planned town. Apateho, Vipateho, Antaspatha, Anupatha. All this seems to be the street system of the planned city like Shardipur. Metal strong, impregnable, icy, a street in the lower town. Achha, there is a hierarchy in structures also. I will not elaborate this. Griha, Dana, Dama, Dama, Daman, Kshaya, Okas, Vasati, ये बस्ती जो अभी भी कहते हैं, निवेशन, नील, दुर, दुरोण, दुर्योण, दुरोक, दुर्य, different kinds of terms of there, different kinds of houses. So there is a hierarchy in those things also. I am not going to elaborate because that is, and then Harimya is also a very interesting word. Harimya, which in Farsi become Harama. Harimya is a very palatial mansion, a pension, a palace. Harimya, referred to in Rig Veda. Sadman, Sadan, Sadas, Sansad. These are all different kinds of the structures. Now here you can see the hierarchy. Sadman is there, Shukra Sadman is there, Pra Sadman is there, Dirgha Sadman is there, Swaduk Sadman is there. Swadu Sansada, Swadu Sadman, all these things, I feel they are big restaurants. So you can see hierarchy. Sadman, Shukra Sadman, Prasadman, Prasad, जिसे प्रसाद कहते हैं, दीर्घ सदमन और स्वादु सदमन. Plethora of general words as well as specific terms, possibly sometimes of synonyms of a wide range of structures, surely emphasize that Rigvedic society was no way nomadic and primitive, but was a highly stratified and also a multi-dialectal society. Multi-dialect, why I say? If you try to study Rig Veda, the Sanskrit of the Rig Veda, there are many synonyms. Why there are so many synonyms? For one thing, because I believe that they always talk about Panchajana, Panchakrishtiya, Panchakshitya. They are talking about 5 peoples. उसी के बाद में बना पांचजन्य शंख, the voice of Krishna. That's the voice of 5 people, symbolically later on. But Panchajana, Panchakrishtiya, Panchakshitiya, they often occur about the peoples. So I believe that they are different people living in different locality, some in Sindh, some Western Punjab, some Eastern Punjab, some Haryana, some Kutch, and their dialects were refined to be refined with the aid of grammar for the mantras of the Rig Veda. And that language in the Rig Veda itself is called Chandas. In one verse, Chandas and Prakrit word come together. Prakrit is that which you speak by nature, effortlessly. Prakrit language, the common man's language. Chandas especially made from the Chanda mantras. और यही जो है ज़िंद अवेस्ता, आपने ज़िंद अवेस्ता नाम सुना होगा. Avesta is just like Ved of the Parsis. Why it is called Zinda? Because it is written in Zinda. Zind is Chanda. Great bath, water structure, talking about it. I found a very interesting word in the Rig Veda itself. The Bhojasya Midam Pushkarini Veshma. The Parishkrita Devmane Nirmitam. Such a King Bhoj, such a palace in which there is a Pushkarani. There is a great bath. If you consult the Mohenjo-daro excavation report by Sir John Marshall, he said that it was a double-storied building. Upper story was mostly made of wood. So I believe that the entire palatial building in the castle, in the castle of Mohenjo-daro, is very close to what I have told you from the Rig Veda. This is the plan of that great bath. Great bath is a part of this. It is not an independent thing. I don't believe it was a public. It is public bath. It is for the king's bath. Sabha, Samiti, Vidatha. Sabha and Samiti are mentioned at several places there. Sabha and Samiti. Sabha means, you can say that in the parliament there are 2 houses. One is for the elders, the other is from the representatives. That is representative for Samiti, that is for elders, Sabha. सभा में जो चमकती है, वाह. Or Vidatha is the place where the arguments or discussion, discourses are taken place. Water structures. There are references to Kupa, Sarasa, Utsa, Utsadhi, Bandha, Budnya, Prithubudnya, Kavandha or Kabandha, Pushkara, Pushkarani. These are all different kinds of water structures. If you remember Kabandha, if you have read Ramayana, you can understand what Kabandha was. There it is shown as a demon which has captured Ram and Lakshman in his arms. And then Ram said, Lakshman, to quickly cut his arms. And he also cut one arm, Ram, or Lakshman cuts, and the Ram. And the demon says that I was accursed by Indra. Now you have liberated me. Thank you. कबंधा, क्या है कबंधा? उच्छित बाहु, जिसके बाहें फैली हैं. उदरे मुख, माउथ. दिस इज आउटलेट ऑफ स्टोरीज. कहीं भी आप जाए, मॉडर्न स्ट्रक्चर्स, मॉडर्न बड़े बड़े डैम में, सतलुज में बने हुए कहीं भी, उनका मुख कहाँ है, आउटलेट कहाँ है? इन द बेली एरिया, इन द हार्ट एरिया, बेली एरिया. उच्छित बाहु, उदरे मुख. एक कबंध के लिए स्पेशली आई एम टेलिंग यू. पुष्कर एंड पुष्करणी, उत्सधी, दीज आर Coop, Sarsa, and there is Avata. Avat is very, very, very important word that occurs usually. Avat is not precisely a well. Actually, it is a water structure, which is not circular, but possibly square or rectangular. This is the well at Dholavira. I could have talked about it for half an hour. I am not going to speak about that. This is the eastern reservoir of Dholavira. At each corner, there is a flight of steps. In all, there are 30 steps at 3 corners. Northwestern, northeastern, southwestern, and at the 4th corner, there is an outlet. It's a huge thing. Rock cut reservoir to the south of castle of Dholavira. I am giving only 2 examples. Mercantile activities. यहाँ पर क्या है कि the Rigvedic people had conceived of or created a god for every aspect of their life, of their activities. Indra is not only Purandara that destroys force of the enemies, but is also rain god. And at places it is called Sirpati, lord of the cultivated fields. Purpati, lord of Pura. And Agni, as I told you, is normally as a Purandi. Or likewise, in marine navigation, water trafficking, Ashwini Kumara has a very special role to play. Ashwini Kumar, it is the ship of Ashwini Kumar, which is called Shataritra now, Shat Padmati now, having 100 oars. Tribandhura, having 3 masts, each mast fitted with 2 sails. And those sails is likened to sometimes peahens, sometimes swans, some are birds, some are horses, which propel the ship. When there is no wind, then you will use oars. Otherwise, those pal, जिसे पाल कहते हैं बात की संस्कृत में, those sails will propel the ship. Yori yantra himyeva vasasa. Ashwini Kumar said, your sails are made of snow white cloth. That is called yantra, that is propelling the ship with the aid of wind. And the sails of different colors they are sometimes brown in color, sometimes white, as I told you, sometimes of different colors. Sails are used by the sea voyagers. Usha or Pushan, Asha, highways, paths. Pushan is called Pathaspati, Mahapathaspati, Lord of paths, roads. Ribhus of highway, Vastospati, the god for architecture. Achha, very interestingly, priests for priests for death and mortuary practices make another group. They are called Yamayana priests. From 10 or 14 to 17 hymns in the 10th mandal of Rig Veda are dedicated to the rituals of, in honor of the dead. They are called Yamayana for Yam. The first hymn is dedicated to Yama. All other hymns are by different Yamayana, जिसमें आता है बहुत, आपने सुना भी कभी श्राद्धों में, अग्नि दग्धा, अनग्नि दग्धा, ये के च पितर. Even they are talking about the pitar sitting in a garbh sadbi pitar, in a pottery jar. That is pot burial. Agni dagdha, cremated by fire. Anagni dagdha, which are not consecrated by fire. और आता है एक कॉफिन में है, मेड ऑफ ग्रास, निधान, दे कॉल्ड इट निधान में लेटे हुए हैं. ओ पितर, वेदर यू आर consecrated by fire, not consecrated by fire, whether you are sitting in a jar, whether you are in a coffin, come here at your ritual and partake what we offer, partake of what we offer. They are inviting them. So different modes of disposal of the dead were prevalent during the Vedic times. That's why I say it's a multi-ethnic society. At Dholavira, we investigated several graves. Only in one grave was found one skeleton, that too of a lady with mirror and bangle, shell bangle in the hand. Only one skeleton. Sometimes I jokingly used to say the prince of Dholavira married a princess of Mohenjo-daro. That's why she was given burial here when she died, jokingly. Joke apart, all the graves are full of offerings in the form of pottery or some beads, a small piece of gold or something like this, but no ashes, no human bones, nothing. They are just memorials. The kind of things you find, you have talked about at Harappa and Kalibanga. But they also forget that there are certain graves in which offerings are there, but no skeletons are there. So explanation was given that some people died somewhere else. So this grave was made as a memorial of that person who died somewhere else. But no, this was in the form of burial. Dholavira very special. Economic terms are concerned. There are Artha, Avyaya, Bhag, Gratha, capital, Rin, Shulk, Bali, Savita, Vitta, Samvidhana, Vasna. Vasna is वही जो आजकल वजन कहते हैं आप, ये फारसी में वजन हो गया. Vazan is, it is also used for the price, for weight as well as price. That word is often used in Vedic literature as a price by weight. और इसका बहुत सुंदर ऋषभपद ब्राह्मण में आता है बाद में कि ये क्या क्या थे. ऋग्वेद में यथा कलम यथा शपम हिरण्यम संन्यामसि, a gambler who lost everything. He was forsaken by his parents. He was forsaken by his wife. He is lamenting, they have lost everything. Now by 1/10, 1/16 and 1/10 I am paying back the debt I obtained for gambling. है ना, इंटरेस्टिंग। और वो क्या क्या टर्म्स थे, जो कला 16 पार्ट, शफा 1/8 part, because a cow has 8 hoofs, pad 4 feet, pad means 1/4, और फिर गवार्ध half of that, half of the whole, and then swarna or go. That was the standard. ये कला शफा पद अर्ध गवार्ध स्वर्ण, दैट इज स्वर्ण इज तोला, एक तोला। एक तोला के जो, इफ यू स्टडी द ऋग्वेदिक वेट्स, वन दिस फुल 16, which has all 16 kalas, weighs 13 point something. And the tola before the metric system was also 11.44 gram, very close to the present day tola. These are the different kinds of weights. Rajju, ropes. I am not going to maritime activities and ships and shipping. Different names for the watercrafts. Tari, Tarani, Pratarani, Plava, Druna, Pratarani, Tarani, fitted with sails. Some economic terms are there. Very famous story of Bhujya, who met with a shipwreck, and Ashwini Kumar go there and rescue him. So there are Madhumay me, Parayanam, Madhuman me, Purunayanam. My going abroad will be sweet. My coming back will be sweet. Madhumay me, Punarayanam. फिर वापस आना. Nava Nakshoda Pradisha Prithivya. Let us trample down all quarters of the earth with our ship. That can happen only in the sea, not on land. A model of a ship, that a watercraft, dock of Lothal, land routes, Advan, Swadu Sansada, means of transport. ये तो डिस्पोजल ऑफ द डेड मैंने बता ही दिया। ये स्तूप, प्रोटो स्तूप, हमें 5-6 स्तूप मिले, उन 2 को हमने इन्वेस्टिगेट किया। इट टर्न्ड आउट टू बी exactly, I mean, how the stupas of Buddhist period were made. This is the ground plan and showing, I mean, the spokes and all that, called Sara Ratha Chakra Chiti, with no spoke, Sapradhi Ratha Chakra Chiti. Thanks.
Very good evening, everybody. After speaking in the after the talk of my guru, RS based, it's a very difficult. मैं बहुत सौभाग्यशाली समझता हूँ कि मैं तीसरी पीढ़ी में यहाँ खड़ा हूँ और चौथी पीढ़ी सामने भी बैठी है। गुरु और ग्रैंड गुरु दोनों यहाँ हैं। लाल साहब के बारे में सबसे पहले मैं कुछ बात कहना चाहूँगा, जो मेरे खुद के एक्सपीरियंस हैं उसके बारे में बात करूँगा। फिर सर के बारे में चंद शब्द। सबसे पहले प्रोफेसर बीबी लाल साहब से मेरी मुलाकात जब मैं नया आर्कियोलॉजिकल फर्टिनिटी में आया ही था, प्रवेश किया था इन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ आर्कियोलॉजी, और एडमिशन के जस्ट बाद वैक वर्ल्ड आर्कियोलॉजिकल कांग्रेस हुआ था। वहाँ मैंने उनको सबसे पहले उनके दर्शन किए थे। लेकिन उसके बाद बहुत ऐसे मौके आए जब उनसे बहुत कुछ समझने, सीखने, जानने और उनको बहुत नज़दीक से परखने का मौका मिला। कई सेमिनार्स में भी उनसे रात देर तक, मुझे याद है बनारस का एक सेमिनार जहां मेरा एक पेपर प्रेजेंटेशन था एंथ्रोपोमॉर्फिक फिगर पे, तो सर ने कहा कि रात में बैठे। नॉर्मली इतना लेट वो जगते नहीं थे, जल्दी सो जाते थे 9 बजे के आसपास, लेकिन उन्होंने कहा नहीं, तुमसे बात करनी है मुझे। और रात के 9 बजे वो मेरे साथ बैठे और लगभग 10 बजे रात तक वो एंथ्रोपोमॉर्फिक फिगर के बारे में वो जानते रहे हैं और एक एक चीज़ों के बारे में डिटेल और बारीकी से जाने, और बहुत कुछ उन्होंने इंसाइट दिया कि इसमें कैसे आगे बढ़ोगे। और उन्होंने एक बात मुझसे कहा कि अभी बहुत कुछ जानना बाकी है आर्कियोलॉजी और हिस्ट्री के बारे में। उसके बाद मैं एक और वाक़या मुझे याद आता है, जब पुराना किला में कालीबंगा रिपोर्ट राइटिंग के लिए वो रोज़ 3-4 घंटे आया करते थे, और ठीक उसके सामने वाले रूम में मैं भी बैठा करता था। उस समय मैं एंथ्रोपोमॉर्फिक फिगर पे एक आर्टिकल लिख के सर के पास कई दिनों से मैं इंतज़ार करता था कि आज सर के पास जाने का मौका मिल जाए, कल मौका मिल जाए। तो मैं एक धीरे से मैंने किसी से भिजवाया कि सर को एक बार आप दिखा देना कि जो मैंने लिखा है, क्योंकि सबसे पहले जो कॉपर होर्ड की पहचान ओसीपी के बारे में सबसे पहले लाल साहब ने ही बताया था कि ये भी एक ऐसा कल्चर है, और उसके बारे में अनेक लेख उनके प्रकाशित हुए। उसके बाद से ही ये कॉपर होर्ड या ओसीपी जाना गया। तो मैंने जब अपने आर्टिकल उनके सामने ले गए तो उन्होंने मुझे बुलवाया कि तुम उसको अंदर बुला के लाओ। फिर उन्होंने उस पर मुझे बहुत देर तक समझाया और बहुत सारे ऐसे इंसाइट दिए जो बाद में मैंने उस आर्टिकल में इंक्लूड किया, और वो 2007 में पब्लिश हुआ, जो आज भी अब एक अकेला डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ फाइंडिंग्स है। लाल साहब के बारे में जितनी बात करें उतना कम है, क्योंकि उनके साथ जो मेरा एसोसिएशन, सबसे जो क्लोज एसोसिएशन रहा 2018 में, जब सनौली एक्सकवेशन के बाद मैं मटेरियल लेके लाल किला आया था, तो फ़ोन आया कि मैं देखना चाहता हूँ। उस समय उनका स्वास्थ्य बहुत अच्छा भी नहीं था, फिर भी वो लाल किला सिर्फ सनौली के मटेरियल को देखने आए। और मुझे याद है कि आप भी साथ में थे और मैम भी साथ में थी, और आप बार बार कह भी रहे थे कि अब चलिए पापा, लेकिन वो कह रहे थे नहीं नहीं। वो बैठते ही चले गए, घंटों उन्होंने एक एक चीज़ों को बारीकी से देखा, समझा, और इतना आशीर्वाद मुझे दिया, और ये कहा कि ये ऐसा लगता है कि मेरा जो सपना था वो अब साकार हुआ है। तो ये कुछ ऐसे वर्ड थे जिन्होंने मुझे नए तरह से सोचने समझने का मौका दिया। तो उनके कई जो अलग अलग पहलू हैं, खासकर आर्कियोलॉजी की बात तो होती ही है, उनके पब्लिकेशन की बात हो रही है, लेकिन उनकी पर्सनालिटी में जो एक ह्यूमैनिटी और मानवता का जो अंश था, और जितना सहज वो थे, और सहजता से, वो सहजता उनकी राइटिंग में भी दिखती है, वो सहजता उनकी पर्सनालिटी में भी था। और डीप अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए जितना वो डीप ड्राइव करते थे किसी भी सब्जेक्ट के लिए, वो अद्भुत है। और ये हम सबों को सीखने की ज़रूरत है कि कोई भी छोटा या बड़ा ज्ञान या समझ कहीं से भी ली जा सकती है। और ये जो क्वालिटी थी, ये मुझे एक और वाक़या याद है सर, जब वो धौलावीरा आए थे और मैं स्टूडेंट वहाँ था ट्रेनिंग के लिए, तो बिस सर ने मुझे लगाया कि आप लाल साहब को घुमाने ले जाओगे साइट पे। सुबह सुबह मैं उनके पास खड़ा हो गया जब ट्रेंच में जाने के पहले, तो खुद अपने जूते पे उन्होंने खुद पॉलिश किया, और पॉलिश करने के बाद फिर हमारे साथ वो साइट पे घूमने गए, और पूरे टाइम एक एक छोटी छोटी चीज़ों को डीपली अंडरस्टैंड करना, और हमसे भी पूछना, और खुद अपने ओपिनियंस और वो बताना। तो वो एक ऐसा समय था जो मैं अपने आप को बहुत बड़ा प्रिविलेज और बड़ा सौभाग्यशाली समझता हूँ कि वो समय मैंने जिया है, यानी अपने ग्रैंड गुरु के पास भी और अपने गुरु के पास भी। तो ये मैं तीसरी पीढ़ी हूँ यहाँ पे, और यहाँ पे बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं जो मेरे साथ मेरे एक्सकवेशन में या मेरे ट्रेनिंग में उन्होंने कई जगह पार्टिसिपेट किया है। तो 4 पीढ़ियों का संगम यहाँ पे है। ये एक बहुत सौभाग्य की बात है। मैं अपना श्रद्धा सुमन आर्कियोलॉजिकल सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया और मेरे स्टूडेंट्स और मेरे परिवार की तरफ से मैं अर्पित करता हूँ, क्योंकि लाल साहब के बारे में जितनी भी बात की जाए उतना कम है। और उन्होंने मुझे हर तरह से, यानी मेरी पर्सनालिटी में बहुत सारी चीज़ें जो आज मैं महसूस करता हूँ वो उनसे धीरे धीरे इंस्पायर्ड हुआ हूँ। आज मैं भी महाभारत या उसके डेटिंग पे या उन सब चीज़ों पे काम कर रहा हूँ और करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। उसका एक कारण है, क्योंकि हमेशा से चाहे वो लाल साहब के साथ हो या मेरे गुरु आर.एस. बिष्ट के साथ हो, उन्होंने मुझे हमेशा ये सिखाया कि कभी किसी भी चीज़ों पे विश्वास मत करो, बल्कि आर्गुमेंट करो और उसे क्रिटिकली समझने की कोशिश करो। हमेशा नई चीज़ें आती हैं और नए एविडेंसेस आते हैं, उसके उन सब चीज़ों को उन तथ्यों के आधार पे उस कसौटी पे परखो और फिर अपने ओपिनियंस रखो, क्योंकि अपनी सोच बहुत ज़रूरी है। नई सोच, नई समझ, नया इंटरप्रिटेशन, नई अंडरस्टैंडिंग ज़रूरी है। और जो पाथ दिखाया है बीवी लाल साहब ने, और वो निश्चित रूप से हम सबों को के लिए प्रेरणादायक है। मैं अपनी श्रद्धा सुमन उनको अर्पित करता हूँ। आज के का जो लेक्चर था वो सच कहूँ तो मंत्रमुग्ध कर देने वाला था। आप हिल नहीं सकते थे उस लेक्चर में। और जो कुछ भी इंसाइट आपने देखा वो बिल्कुल उलट है जो हम लोगों को पढ़ाया गया था या जो पढ़ाया जाता है कि वैदिक कल्चर एक रूरल कल्चर था और ये कैटल्स और वो रखने वाले थे, नोमैडिक्स थे। और उससे उलट जो स्टोरी है वो कभी हमें ठीक से बताया नहीं गया। हाँ, कुछ लोगों ने उस पर काम किया, लाल साहब ने किया उसके, और बिसाब कर रहे हैं, भगवान सिंह और कई ऐसे स्कॉलर्स हैं जिन्होंने उसको बहुत अच्छे से दूसरे एंगल और दूसरे पक्ष को भी रखा। इसके आगे जो बिसाब ने जिस तरह से इस पूरे कल्चर को आर्कियोलॉजिकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग के साथ और लिटरेचर के अंडरस्टैंडिंग को एक समानांतर रूप में रखा है, वो निश्चित रूप से माइंड बॉगलिंग है। हमें उसको रीविज़िट करने की ज़रूरत है और बहुत डिटेल अंडरस्टैंडिंग की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि ये आज की ज़रूरत है कि हम अपने आर्कियोलॉजिकल रिमेन्स को इनटेंजिबल, जो विजिबल नहीं था है उसमें, जो डायरेक्टली जिसको हम रिलेट नहीं कर सकते, उसको कैसे रिलेट किया जाए, इसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग। मेरी आर्कियोलॉजी की शुरुआत, जो कुछ भी मैंने सीखा है ABCD आर्कियोलॉजी के, उसका श्रेय बिसाब को है। और बिसाब ने जो मार्ग दिखाया, जो चक्षु दिए है, और शायद उसी के आधार पे और उसी चक्षु से मैंने जो भी अभी एक्सकवेशन की फाइंडिंग है, चाहे वो सनौली की फाइंडिंग है, उसका भी नाम बिसाब ने दिया कि ये फाइंडिंग डिस्कवरी ऑफ सेंचुरी है, उसका भी नाम बिसर नहीं दिया था। बिसाब, मैंने जितने भी साइट एक्सकवेट किए, बिसाब हर साइट पे उन्होंने अपना पूरा समय दिया, मुझे बताने में, सिखाने में और समझाने में भी, और उसको पॉजिटिव वे में अप्रिसिएट करने में। तो एक ये जो बूस्ट है टीचर का, वो बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है। आज जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, इस तरह के लेक्चर और हम जितने भी समय में सानिध्य में रहे बिसाब के, और हमने सीखा है और जाना है, उस अंडरस्टैंडिंग के बेस पे जो आज मैं समझ पाता हूँ वो कि जो हड़प्पन कल्चर को सिर्फ अर्बन कल्चर का नाम दिया गया और वैदिक कल्चर को सिर्फ रूरल कल्चर का नाम दिया, ऐसा नहीं है। हड़प्पन कल्चर में भी अलग अलग सेटलमेंट है और इसका एक वाइड रेंज है। जैसे सर ने भी बताया कि ब्रज, ग्राम, महाग्राम जैसे शब्द आते हैं, तो ग्राम भी है, महाग्राम भी है। और तो निश्चित रूप से इसको अलग अंडरस्टैंडिंग से देखने की ज़रूरत है। इसलिए मुझे जो मेरा पर्सनल व्यू है अभी तक के अंडरस्टैंडिंग से, कि जो वैदिक कल्चर की शुरुआत है वो एज अर्ली एज 6000 BC से अंडरस्टैंडिंग शुरू हो जाती है, और जो कल्मिनेशन है वैदिक कल्चर का, जब ये सारे वैल्यूज़ ऐड होते चले गए, चाहे वो ग्राम से महाग्राम तक का सफ़र है, ये और अर्बनाइजेशन का जो सफ़र है, और उसके साथ साथ मैथमेटिक्स, प्रिसिजन जिसकी बात अभी कही, उसका जो सफ़र है, वो कल्मिनेशन जो है वो हमें मैच्योर हड़प्पन फेज़ में दिखाई देता है। तो ये जो जर्नी है वो काफ़ी अर्ली है, क्योंकि जब तक आप उस कॉन्सेप्ट तक पहुंचने के लिए आपकी जो एक यात्रा है वो यात्रा बहुत लंबी है। इसलिए आप अगर आर्कियोलॉजिकल रूइंस को भी अगर आप कोरिलेट करेंगे तो वो जर्नी अर्ली हड़प्पन फेज से लेके और मैच्योर हड़प्पन और लेट मैच्योर हड़प्पन फेज तक की जो जर्नी है वो पूरी तरह से आप समझ पाएंगे कि कैसे रूरल कल्चर या एग्रीकल्चर सोसाइटी वो उसका डेवलपमेंट इंडस्ट्रियल एंड अर्बन सोसाइटी की तरफ कैसे हो रहा है। तो वो जर्नी, पूरी जर्नी रिफ्लेक्ट होती है वैदिक लिटरेचर में। तो इसलिए मेरा ये समझ है कि ये जर्नी बहुत अर्ली शुरू हुई थी, और धीरे धीरे हम एनवायरनमेंट को और अपने लैंड को और उस पूरी सराउंडिंग्स को समझना हमने शुरू किया, और उसका कल्मिनेशन मैच्योर हड़प्पन फेज़ में हुआ होगा। मेरी इतनी समझ नहीं है कि मैं बिस साहब के या लाल साहब के काम पे कुछ बात करूं, लेकिन मैं अपना ट्रिब्यूट और सर को बहुत बहुत बिस सर को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूं कि आपके इस आज के लेक्चर ने मुझे बहुत कुछ सिखाया है, और मैं समझता हूँ कि यहाँ बैठे हुए सभी लोगों ने बहुत कुछ सीखा होगा इससे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।